I've been working close with you over the last 14 years, ostensibly as a dating relationship coach for men. But the question that I'm asked as much as anything else are questions about my own travel experience.
It's like the hero's quest, which is to go out, find some point of light and bring it back to the village. That's the age-old hero's quest. Tourists and pilgrims, tourists will shuffle past things in museums, and pilgrims will contemplate and ponder the things in the museums.
There's a large number of us that feel that we reached adulthood, but we didn't get some fundamental experience that we wanted.
I just talked to a guy just last week who is in relationship with a great woman. He adores her. He knows that she's the perfect mother for his future children, everything. He just praised her to me immensely. But there's this other woman that he's seeing when he met her, who's living far away. She's more exotic and represents a bit more adventure. And he's like, I haven't got that out of my system.
All right. So welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Hope you're having a nice holiday season. Zan, how are you doing behind the glasses over there?
I'm good.
Too much grog?
My future's so bright I have to wear shades,
Uh-huh.
No, I'm using my time shifter app on my phone because it's for jet lag. And I'm going to Canada. And so it says I'm supposed to avoid any kind of bright lights or anything right now. So I'm wearing sunglasses.
So you're on a professional athlete kind of routine with food, sleep, light, all that.
Well, I'm trying to alleviate my jet lag. So when I come back from Canada, I have quite a bit of jet lag. But this app works. I'm not endorsing it, but it works if you follow it. It's not easy to follow, but it says take caffeine here. Avoid sunlight here. So I'm just wearing the sunglasses because I got all these bright lights on me.
And we kicked off the guild last night. So after the last month or so of our conversations about the guild, the group of men came together and we kicked it off with a call. How's that for you to know that this thing is now in progress and to feel the energy that's gathered around us?
Well, it's been a couple of years in the shaping, like we've been thinking about it. We've been talking about this for a long time. How do we make this really tight mastermind type of group? And the guys are thrilled. You can see it on the call.
Yeah.
And I'm happy you can see how relaxed they are and how engaged they are and because this is the first day of their year journey with us. And the cool thing is you feel like you're in this together. You have this feeling of you're in this together and you want to get to know them. I mean, I was full of questions with the guys last night. But I bit my tongue because I go on for hours and hours. But over the course of the year, we'll definitely have all these questions answered. It's got a good group of guys. I'm happy. I know a few of them personally, and some new faces, and they seem pretty stoked. How was it for you?
Yeah, good. I mean, I had some problems in my place I'm living, like I mentioned to you, like a very loud lizard has nested in the roof of my house somewhere and was giving off, I think it's mating call, either an aggressive mating call or an aggressive territorial call, which similar thing. And it sounded like a garbage truck backing into my garden for about 4 hours. It was going on all night. So I was going outside in the garden, trying to chase this thing away with the hose, just firing the hose into the back of the garden, hoping to scare this gecko away. It didn't go. But yeah, aside from the technical difficulties I had, you could definitely feel the excitement and the joy in the group. And it's so nice to be leading something that's not like a Q&A. Oh, we've got, Zan on the phone or Jordan on the phone. Let's have a Q&A. Not a Q&A, but not even a course, like a coaching course that's 3 or 4 months that we've done a lot in the past. It's a different animal. So some of my questions are like, how do we show up this being a guild, this being a practicing guild? And I've taken that word very seriously since we first mentioned it on the podcast, which is we're men practicing a particular thing that we care about deeply, from cradle to grave, irrespective of whether we do it in company. And what does it mean? And I know it's a huge thing to throw up, given that we've had one guild phone call so far, but conceiving of this as the start of a tradition that goes
Yeah, that's a good way.
beyond 1 year,
Yeah.
or maybe goes beyond 5 or 10, and maybe is continued after we've gone in different hands. How does that dictate or shape how we're going to show up in this group?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting to me, because it's a different kind of container than you'll find in the coaching world, even the men's coaching world.
We feel like we're on a we've expanded our trajectory, or tightened it, I guess you could say, in that we're starting a new phase. It feels like it to me, and I'm personally going through a new phase. I have been for the last couple of years. I just had my birthday a couple of days ago, and so I'm 62 now, and so I feel like we've done so much of a certain type of thing, which is a lot of coaching and a lot of presentations of that, and now it's time to take that for the rarefied people that want to be a further journey, to deepen it and to lengthen it, and to just have a different relationship with the way we go forward, So I'm excited for it, and I'm ready for the next 30 years. Rock and roll, let's go.
I'm laughing because it's a subtle shift, actually, to say that we've been doing kind of coaching for many people is work, inner work, or I'm doing my relationship work so that I'm ready for the next relationship and so on. But we're exploring more culture. So how do you build within yourself and around yourself a greater sense of culture in which you want to participate, in which you feel more alive and you want to invite others into? So for me, when we say we change the language from this is a year-long mentoring group into a guild, or this is not men's work, but it's culture. It's a group of culture. It's like at the moment we've just shifted the needle a millimeter in a different direction with a new word that we've put on it. And I'm like, I don't quite know how. I have a sense that this is important to do. I don't know how it's going to shake out over a long trajectory, but I sense the further we go, the more clear it's going to get. How we interact with each other in the group, what we aim our questions at,
Yeah.
what the men in the guild end up doing, and how they represent themselves going forward. I think that this is a divergence point, and I'm not quite sure, actually, 4, 6, 8 months into the guild, quite how it's going to look different. But certainly my feeling of it, my intent going into it is very, very different to how it would have been if we'd launched a coaching program a year ago.
For sure. I mean, like, the guild is a different type of container that we really micro created. We wanted to get the details right, get the spirit of it right, get the idea of it right. It's a different container than we've had before. When I talk about change going forward, this millimeter adjustment that you're talking about, that I feel like it's in me. Not changing what I'm doing, not changing my message, not changing anything, but walking forward in a different light, with a different light shining down. That's how I feel. So it's kind of it's a transformative experience for me to go to be a part of this guild. And I'm, like you said, it's not a Q&A. It's a story-driven, mythopoetic path that we're embarking on, and there's guys that have signed on to come with us, and those are good guys. I like them a lot. I respect them because they are doing the King Arthur's where they all dash into the forest at the same time, all the knights, in all different directions. So it's powerful, and I'm looking forward to it. And as I was talking about last night, this to me is not so much a sense of gatherings and coming together as it is a sense of reminders and remembrances. Remembering what we're, and you notice a lot of the guys in the guild yesterday, when they introduced themselves, a majority of them, remember what they said? I've been looking for a brotherhood. I've been looking for peers and a group that I can belong to. A lot of them said that, and I've been looking for it too. So there you go.
what I'd like to do on the podcast today then is introduce the first theme. So I'm running a weekend intensive inside the Guild on January 10th and 11th called The Art of Initiatory Travel.
Just 2 weeks.
So, I mean, yeah, with Christmas and New Year in the way, it's, we're in a bit of a time warp, but it's very soon. So I'm already starting to get my ideas together. So I wanted to share a few things on these topics today. I've been working close with you over the last 14 years, ostensibly as a dating relationship coach for men. But the question that I'm asked as much as anything else are questions about my own travel experience. Because, at the age of 19, I went alone for 3 months. I did a backpacking route through Southeast Asia. So arriving in Bangkok at 19 with one backpack and not knowing anyone within kind of 12 hours, a 12-hour flight, not knowing anyone on the continent was pretty bewildering. And then it's like I wanted to find what that was all about in terms of a mythopoetic thing, right? People went traveling, they had a great experience, they came back somebody different. And I really wanted to experience that for myself. I went back.
Let me ask you a question quickly. So
Yeah.
you're in Oxford. You're in Oxford, England. In Oxford, England,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
you said you saw people coming back from adventures, and it inspired you.
Yeah. So in my hometown where I grew up, no one had ever been anywhere really more exotic than Spain for like a drinking party, Ibiza, 7 days, summer holiday thing. And I went off to college, university, and met some other people, made some friends there, and they'd come back from different parts. Like one of the English guys just come back from 6 months in India. Another one had been to Thailand, Australia. They'd all been traveling. And I was like, well, what's that? And what do you do all day? Like you just go, you buy a one-way ticket to this country and then what? And they're like, well, I don't know really what I was doing all day, sitting around in hostels. There were some girls there. We went to the local temple. We tracked down the full moon party, and I'm like, oh, what's that? And they talked to me about the rave culture that was happening around there, and the music and the beach parties. And this was in an era where it was a totally different scene. And I was like, I have to go. Like I have to go and do this. And I thought I could go with kind of my friends that I had growing up for a 1 or 2 week vacation in Spain and spend all our money, or I could take the same money and go for 3 months to this Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia. I didn't really know what it was, but I just looked at the economics of it, and I thought, wow, like a 12-week vacation to this mysterious place that some people think is good, that's got more leverage to it than 2 weeks in Spain. But I was really captivated, so I had to go. And then I just loved the lifestyle of traveling and being on the road. It beguiled me in new ways. And this is I mean, the internet was around in this era, but there weren't smartphones. You would have to go on a dial-up computer in an internet cafe, right? And then risk typing out your email to your loved ones back home. And then someone would start screaming in the email shop because the electricity went down. They lost their hour-long travel blog that they were trying to upload to a very rudimentary blog. This was the era. And you had to hustle your way around through chatting up people on the street, locals, trying to get a good deal, trying to find out what's a good place to go, not go into a town that's got no one in it. So you would end up alone there with no scene, no party. So it was a different world. And at the age of 23, I went to South America. Well, actually, I went to San Diego, California, crossed the border into Mexico, and then kept going south by bus, essentially till I got to Argentina. And then I went up to Brazil. Wow. So that's a couple of years. So people ask me about travel, how to do it. And there are so many different, it's more than tips. Because tips you can pick up anywhere, right? The real thing, I think, is a worldview about what you're doing when you're on the road. I think that's the most important thing. As we've said on this podcast many times, people go traveling, but if you're bouncing from Irish pub to Irish pub or hostel to hostel, and the only people you're hanging out with are, fellow English speakers, fellows from your home country or whatever that is, you end up with a very thin experience. When I first went traveling, I didn't share this with any of my friends around me. I don't think I had the language for it, but I wanted to go and I wanted to come back as somebody different. I didn't want to come back the same guy. There were, I hated parts of myself. I had teenage self-loathing. I was held back and restricted. I felt unfree in my self-expression. And I thought, wow, if I go away for 3 months, it gives me a long time in which I might see something or do something or become something or transform. And I can come back in September at the start of the new school year and be different, be more free. So I didn't have the language, but I hoped for an initiation very clearly.
Yeah.
I wanted to go traveling for the kicks and the thrills and the girls and whatever else, the parties and the drinking and the stories, but I wanted to come back someone different. And I think most of us have this yearning that we find something when we're on the road. And quite what that is and how it's going to come about is very mysterious, because it's not like we're handed the rite of passage. You go to the Tony Robbins work and you walk across the hot coals, and when you get to the other end, you are the embodiment of sublime strength, and you can handle any adversity, and you go home. And it's not like that. We don't have a uniform experience of initiation, but we do want to come back and feel like we have a gravitas, that we've seen something, and that we can hold ourselves different.
Do you think
in
everybody has that, Jordan?
Conversations.
Is that a subset of people, you think?
Well, I've done a lot of study on initiation, because people have asked me the question about travel. How can I go traveling? And there are different sets of question, right? And I think it depends on your readiness or your level. Some people are like, I hate my country. Where can I go where it's cheap women, cheap booze, easy thrills? I just want to fuck off somewhere for a few months and no one bother me for a while. So there's a technical name for this. One of my mentors who I read, who's really shaped my thinking when it comes to initiation, he calls this exodus. This is just an exodus. It's not an initiation. You want to flee where you are. And there's no particular growth in that unless you happen upon by complete accident or happenstance, you happen upon a transformative experience. You get in over your head with the local mob, or, you get all your credit cards stolen or break a leg or something like that. And that might kickstart some kind of spiritual question.
Yeah, because most travelers are the same in another country, complaining about things as they are at home. They just transplant themselves to a different background scenery, and they have no wonder about their experience. They're not curious about their experience. I know this because, Canadians all go to Mexico. We went to Mexico when we were younger. We go there for 2 weeks, Cancun or something like that. And I was always in awe of that I'm transplanted somewhere else. And my buddies were just like, what? Let's get some drinks. And nobody noticed the palm trees. Nobody it seemed like, don't you see we're in palm trees now? We're coming from northern Canada. And maybe and I thought I was just kind of being sentimental or reflective more than most people, but because nobody seemed to care. It's just another place to party.
Well, I have you said, have I got any tips? I've got nothing to say. If that's the motivation of your travel, I've got nothing to say other than I could share where I found the prettiest girls or the best kind of cost price value ratio. But it's just facts. And actually, if someone just wants cheap thrills, I'm not going to share with them my favorite places, because they're sacred to me, right? I'm not going to share something sacred to me unless I feel the real earnest spirit of the person that's asking. So
that's for sure.
No real tips. It's just like, where have you heard has got what you want, go there and check it out. But in the conversations I have, people are looking for something much more sincerely. And I would say, we could say there's 3 different kinds, broadly speaking, 3 different kinds of things that people want to initiate themselves into. So I'm throwing that word around a lot, but there's so many different definitions of initiation, right? And I think that's the first thing that we're going to do in the weekend intensive. What are you actually looking for? Because there's not a uniform, you cross this line, you're a man now, my son, and we all recognize you. One of the saddest things about going traveling is you come back to your hometown and no one in your hometown. No, if you really travel, if you really, more than the holiday exodus thing, if you really go and see something and have a significant experience, the saddest thing is coming home and no one in your hometown has got the view or the experience enough to actually see that you've had a transformative experience. So with initiation, in a perfect mythical society, you would come home and all the elders would recognize you. They'd look in your eyes and say, well, there's a steel in there. You face some kind of void or darkness and you conquered that. You've got metal, and we see that in your presence. But I come back to my hometown and they're like, oh, you went to Thailand, so you get any ladyboys? And they ask me that one question and then just move on. And it's like, what? I spent 3 months in solitude, like testing my metal and limits and meeting people from all over the place. But no one's got the capacity to understand that you've been through a transformation. So the transformed Zan, let's say the transformed Zan comes home and he's thinking, well, I'm going to get a reception now because I'm someone different. And you come home and no one is able to receive you or see that difference. And then you kind of land home without the filament doesn't touch on the other side.
It's like soldiers, right? Soldiers never talk about their experience, and you think, why? Don't you want to? What you went through is phenomenal. You write a book, and they just don't want to. They went through things that they went with their soldier brothers that only they could relate to it, and they can't share it with their family, their friends, because no one would be able to understand what it was. They're speaking a different language. It's very similar to that. And it's like the hero's quest, which is to go out, find some point of light and bring it back to the village. That's the age-old hero's quest. Bring it back and share it. But if the people just don't care about the sharing, and they're like, okay, you're at the town, that's cool, and you feel like you're carrying something back. Having said that, you've encountered people who were receptive to what what you've experienced and wanted to know more and wanted to experience the same thing, for instance, right?
Ultimately, but they're a minority. In my experience, they're a minority. Yeah. So I would say there are 3 different kind of stages of where you're at when you're really profoundly seeking an experience of adventure or voyage and return, right? What I see with the men that I work with, the first one is, and just to say this really bluntly, because it's not a sexy thing to own, but there's a large number of us that feel that we reached adulthood, but we didn't get some fundamental experience that we wanted in teenage or young adult lives, which has to do with belonging, fitting in, having a group, belonging to a group that really had an ethos and a spirit about it, or love, or being really accepted as who you are. So, we work with people all the time. Okay, I've got deep into the corporate world, but I never felt that I was my authentic self anywhere. I was always playing some kind of game to keep up with my friendship group and do the right thing in the career and so on. I don't think I've ever had an experience of being with a group of people where I was fully authentically myself and they accepted me. And this is a huge motivator, especially the people who come through the Amorati. They want to go and fall in love. They read some of the passages of your book, or they've seen a movie. I remember first watching foreign movies growing up and seeing some of the women from other parts of the world, seeing Penelope Cruz in a movie, seeing Monica Bellucci for the first time in a movie, thinking, wow, seeing Salma Hayek and thinking, wow, I could go to Mexico. All the women are going to look like that. Like, really? That sparked something so in my mind. But the young boy in me that was like, I want to go and find real love, like beautiful love with a real feminine woman like that, like I see in the films. I had to go and seek that. And what that was for me was, in my homeland, we're just not that, how can I say, intimacy wasn't really having that effect. right? I grew up in a
Right.
hookup culture. I grew up in a culture where men and women got together all the time, but it was through teasing and banter. There wasn't this sense of really landing an authentic self with a woman as a like sense of beloved muse mirror, that real sacredness. I
Right.
personally
Right.
didn't get that. And so I know a lot of people that are looking for travel are really looking for belonging, and they're looking for intimacy. And that's something that I believe we should all have in our home country in our teenage years, but it just doesn't shake out that way in this time.
Yeah, we don't find it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So how can I? So you grow up with a group of friends, and everyone's got their inbuilt way, their in jokes, their ways of diminishing or deflecting something. You want to say something really from your heart, but you know that if you put it into your circle of friends, they're going to rip your head off for saying such a thing and tease you mercilessly. Anything sincere, like, I want to have this experience. Men keep it to themselves, right? So a big factor of traveling is to find a group where I can really be myself and be honored and valued in that. And I think for many of our guys, that motivates them. So that shapes your whole travel, where you go, what you seek, why you're seeking it, what things to do, what activities you choose when you go away, what you gravitate towards.
Right.
You want to pick your destinations and your adventures so you've got the maximum chance of getting those needs, that overwhelming desire met. That's one thing. And like I say, you want to have a more authentic, more honest adventure, but you spend your time in the same drinking circles and mates, lads, bonding circles, or whatever it is that you have back home, you don't have a breakthrough. And God, you wouldn't believe how many hundreds of people that I've spoke to said, I spent 6 months traveling. I didn't really find anything. I hop around all of the hot places. They list all the different places that everyone goes to. I was in Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Thailand. I didn't find anything. It was just the same stuff everywhere I went. What a squander of resources to go out seeking something and to not really find anything.
The difference between tourists and pilgrims, I think, what you're describing is more you're on a pilgrimic type of journey. And, tourists will shuffle past things in museums, and pilgrims will contemplate and ponder the things in the museums, and there is a difference. So carry on.
Yeah. See, I think it's fundamental to really know why you're going and what specifically you're looking for. And then if an initiation is a portal that opens through which you walk and encounter a new experience that you never had before, and you awake in the midst of it, and you let it hit you. You were unguarded and you were non-judgmental, and you were just like, I'm going to embrace whatever weird thing happens in here, even though it's beyond my comfort zone, beyond what I want to control. You go in there and you let it change you, but it's important to know what you're seeking. And I think the next stage for me is a sense of what the pilgrim might be, which is seeking something more mysterious. You have there's the distinction with the traveler, the tourist and the traveler. The tourist just goes for a week or 2 weeks, and there's a package thing. They stay in one place. It's
Right.
the common cycle every day. The traveler is more leisurely. The traveler can get lost so easily. But after someone has had these experiences where it's like, yeah, I know what it's like to belong somewhere, to go to another country and fit in for a while, to have the local people give me their hospitality and be included into another way of living. When I've fallen in love and I've had a real intimacy with someone, often that initiation kind of fills in a gap in someone's growth, someone's unfolding. And then they start asking questions like, well, I want something beyond that. What's beyond that? Is there something more mysterious that I can have? Is there more of a spiritual experience, more of a bewildering experience? I want to go and commune with, I don't know, nature or history or something truly, something that's going to reconfigure my entire sense of self and life. that's beyond other people, right? That's beyond being an authentic self, beyond being included, beyond having a love affair. Um, we, we've had a number of Amorati do things like this, like the Vision Quest we did a few years ago. We had men come on the Vision Quest and they were like, God, I spent 4 days in the forest. That completely shifted my whole perspective of how the universe works. Now I'm going to live my life differently. And I had lunch with someone the other day who was like, I did your Vision Quest in 2018. My life went like this. You know, how I conceive of reality is entirely different of how I conceived of it before. We've got a member in our guild who wasn't there last night, but he did a program with us about in 2021, and then he said, "Look, I'm going to go in nature for 50 days alone. It's what I need to do." And so he went and did that. So this is a kind of travel that, or a kind of adventure, which is far beyond, can I go to Brazil and meet this perfect image of feminine beauty that I have in my psyche? It's like, if I go out into the forest, what's that? What's the mystery of me sitting alone without even a roof over my head, just in a sleeping bag out in the cold? What is it like to have so much solitude that I cannot help but know myself on the deepest level, and the mysteries that are within me, and the mysteries that are there in the universe, but also connected to me somehow? Someone texted me the other day. He said, I'm thinking about joining the guild, but I'm going on a dark retreat. So a dark retreat, you go in a room or even a cave for, I had a friend who went in for 21 days and 21 nights, and he sat in he basically made an igloo in his own garden that sealed any light and moisture from coming in or out. And he went there and he had a woman that came around, and he said, look, I'm going to go in this little igloo. It's a cave. It's a dark room, and I'm going to be in there for 21 days. What I need you to do is put a little bit of food through this slot, and then ring a bell once a day, and I'm going to know that the food is there, and I'll reach in even though I can't see anything, get my food. And it's like, why do this, right? This is the stuff that your mates back home are going to really think you're insane if you do it. But at some point, I was really, really pulled to do this. Another one's the ayahuasca trip, right? I know ayahuasca is a popular thing, and you can get a lot of social capital by saying, here I've been studying with real authentic shaman, and here are my 100 ayahuasca trips. And that becomes a whole fancy dress for your Instagram self-image. A lot of people are doing that because there's social credibility. But that's an earlier stage. That's finding your friends and your belonging, and a sense of social identity from adventure. What I'm talking about now is, you take your ayahuasca and you don't tell anyone what happens. There's no kudos or credit that comes with it. It's you with your psyche, with this potent substance, with this retreat, with this darkness that takes you into yourself. And what are you going to find in the depths of yourself when there's no social conditioning and interaction around you?
Yeah, I've been talking about this at length in all my calls and group calls and stuff I've been doing, that if you're not looking at your life, if you're just, getting a job, going on vacation, getting a better job, getting a car, getting a better car, getting a wife, having a kid, having a divorce, getting a wife, which we think is the sum of our existence in the West, right? But if you're not looking at if you're not looking at your experience in your life as the word we said before, a mythopoetic journey, and not very many people will ever understand what I'm saying. And I realized that because I did some Zoom calls recently with a group of men, and I asked them, and they're like, if you can't find if you can't see that this journey and your life force going forth in what you're trying to do is a holy experience, if you don't look at it like that, then you'll never understand what you're trying to articulate here, Jordan. And a lot of guys will never. One of the guys on the call basically said, yeah, I'm trying to understand, but I'm so analytical that I'm processing everything you're saying. You're saying that the world is broken, but it's still holy. We can still find the sacredness in it. We can still seek out the sacred in ourselves, even though we're profane, right? And I was going on and on. And he's bless his heart, he was saying, you know, like, I'm so analytical that I'm processing through my brain what you're saying, and I don't feel, I would love to feel it, but I don't feel this sense of worship, because really we're talking about worship in their secular age. It's a return to worship in the secular age of something that is beloved to us, something that we long for, to turn our face toward what we long for, you know. And as you're talking about this your travel experiences in trying to articulate this, it's all I can see is some people look at its surface and they don't know that there's a different way of looking at it, and maybe they don't care, and maybe it's unfair of us to say, oh, you should, you know, that's okay, maybe we're the weird ones, you know, and which I'll accept. But you have to look at your path that you're trying to create, and in your relationship, it's how we stand as men in the face of beauty. How do we relate to beauty, really? And I'm writing about that right now. I'm struggling to write about it. My chapter of this book I'm writing about, the concept is reverence. Like, have a reverence about the whole experience. If you have reverence about your relationship with women, for instance, you're fun, you're funny, but you're also respectful and kind. And it doesn't come from something that you are doing, something you set out to do, something you learned to do, something you constructed for yourself to do, a blueprint of what to say and do. It comes from an essence of being. And that essence of being, if you concentrate on the essence of being, things like what you're doing and saying do not matter, because they will be an outpouring from that expression of you trying to find a holy ground to stand on, you know? And I don't mean religious. I'm not talking about, you know, joining a religion or anything. I'm talking about taking off your shoes because you're on holy ground, and having that feeling, and having that honor and gratitude in your own heart for your own experience. To have gratitude for your experience gives you the sense that you're touching the sublime and the sacred. So anyway, it's hard to articulate.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I was thinking about Jung, who he talks about 4 different ways that we process and move through the world, making sense and then taking action in the world. There's thinking and feeling, and then there's perceiving and intuiting. 4 different ways of how the psyche can interpret what's going on. And when you say some people are so caught in their analytical way of moving through life, they're caught in thinking. So if we say that this is an adequate map, there's 4 different ways that you might steer yourself through reality and relationship. And if you've only got one of those methods, you're only going to be able to live in a quarter of life. And I know that because that's very much my own upbringing, right? So I come from the north, the archetypal north. The winter is long, the summer is short. We need to engage our thinking and our foresight and work rationally and cooperatively to plan to get through the winter. So people from northern countries are very unsensual, not intuitive, not feeling based, but with incredible foresight and planning. Exactly. So it's a very relevant part of the psyche to have the archetypal north within you. And yeah, the archetypal east is all around wisdom and detachment and humor and cosmic humor and irony, right? It's like, okay, the east is a different reality. We don't quite need to plan as much as the people up in the north. And then the west is much more, the spirituality of the west is much more kind of inward focused and intuitive and into the dark shadows. Speaking with a client the other day, you know, he's been doing his kind of Buddhist meditation, which is an Eastern transcending spiritual philosophy. But then he's been doing his reading the tea leaves and going out at equinox and, you know, going to see a woman who reads him his tarot cards. And what does that mean? Well, this is the more Western, the Western part of the psyche and the Western part of the world. And he was like, there's something missing actually in my spirituality. I've done all this thinking based stuff. I've done all of this awakening spiritual, Eastern spirituality. I've done all this kind of more Western hemisphere, even Western European, like more more woo-woo shadow work, Jungian spirituality, but there's something incomplete. And I'm like, it's the South. It's feeling, it's living in a way that your feeling becomes the vehicle through which you take in the messages of life. And then feeling becomes the vehicle through which you express yourself and interact. Right now, you're actually better than you were because you just were in your head thinking as a child. Now you've got intuition, which serves you massively. Now you've got transcendence and cosmic distance and a humor. But what you're missing and what he was burning for is, I just want to bring things in through my body and then express through my body. What if I had no thinking? And I was like, you got to go to the South. And he said to me, and I've had dozens and dozens of people say, I need to go to Brazil. Brazil is an archetypal country. It's not that Rio is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my life. Like getting in a taxi in the airport in Rio de Janeiro, and then this taxi drives you and you're seeing these mountains, dark black granite mountains covered in palm trees and favelas overlooking the sea, and every bay is it's intoxicating. It is. But the deeper thing about being in Brazil, and I'm speaking about it archetypally because I know Brazil is a very, very place, and there's many people who, are more European in outlook and so on. But typically you have drumming music. Africa is a similar thing. Music that comes with a deep bass drum, people that go out and dance, the sense of feet making contact with the earth, the sense of the body is very full and very dynamic, spontaneous, and open when it comes to feeling, emotion, tactileness in relationship. Sexuality is included in that. In our guild call last night, what were people saying? I want a relentless, surging, unstoppable sexual force. They were looking to unleash this thing. Well, there's countries you can go to in the world where everyone has this on tap, all of the men and all of the women. I think West Africa, Central Africa is like the clearest place that I've seen this. It carries over into Brazil. And I'm like, why don't you go into the middle of carnival and lose yourself in a procession? Like, what if you stamp your body and gyrate and move and shake it so much that actually your cognitive faculties turn off because they can't deal with the amount of intensity moving through the body? What if you go and practice that every day for a few months? Who will you be? What is it like to get so lost in a carnival procession that you turn around and see a girl and just hold her and make out with her on the spot? These miracles can happen, right? You can bypass everything that's the thinking mind if you get caught up in the culture. So I'm like, I said to my client, go and spend a couple of months in Brazil, but not because you like the image of the women and you want this image of some ideal girl. Yeah. And not like, we're going to get wrecked in the carnival because we can just drink and no one's going to hold us accountable for bad behavior. And no, that's not the point. The point is that you have, your psyche is limited because you've never had an initiatory experience of somehow losing thought and going fully into feeling. What if you put yourself in a pressure cooker scenario where you surrender? I've been in that, when I lived in Brazil on and off for probably a year and a half. I went to, the best places in Brazil are not the headline places on the beach. The best places when you go inland a little bit. The best places when you learn some of the more folkloric dance and the dances of the desert. And yeah, you can sign up for a samba school, and people do. Actually, when I went in the samba schools, it was full of Northern European girls who were like going every single week training in the samba because they're dying to lose themselves as well. These overthinking Northern Western women that men can't connect with. They're overthinking. They're dying to throw off the shackles of their own.
They want the sensual experience.
Psyche's imbalance. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm a big one when it comes to traveling, like feel into the depths of you. Where are you pulled? And some people are pulled to Asia. They're like, I want to go to the East. I want to be in a place where I transcend, the pain of samsara, and I can sit in something and laugh and see things with more perspective. Some people want to go to the Western mysticism. A lot of people want to go and live in the North, and make a lot of money so they can retire in a short amount of time. That's what our culture's kind of all about, right? But a lot of our guys, more than anything else, want to go into the South. And it's not just travel for travel, it's travel for a development and a completion of the psyche and a completion within the soul. So that's what I'm talking about with initiatory travel. Yeah.
That's what your event is going to be about, or your presentation, or what is it, program?
Yeah. All the different themes, all the different kinds of initiation that there are.
I see.
And some initiations actually are pointless, and some of them are even pretty toxic. You can get initiated into some things that you don't want to be involved in, right? But I mean, I was going to start this episode with a question, and I'll call that up now. We'll end with this question. But this is Nick in the Amorati. He says, "This is my big question. I would love to hear more about the call to adventure while still in a relationship. The feeling when you know you must go in spite of everything else externally saying you should stay. When you're with someone who is good and could even have a lifelong love with, but still have the absolute pull in your wider wandering journey in the land of women, or in your wider journey. When you're not settled in your heart to devote yourself to someone, even when you can see that they would otherwise deserve that devotion." So when I hear a question of that, I mean, this is commonplace for men, either in the beginning of your life or even when you're in a relationship, if your relationship's good, you got children in your mid 40s, 50s. Yeah. It's like, God, there's something in me that needs to get away. And I know for a fact, if I don't meet my need for adventure and freedom, then my desire for adventure and freedom starts to turn into this wild, overblown thing, which is, I need to go traveling for a year. Well, if I really understand what is it that I'm actually looking for, I can quite successfully meet my need for freedom and adventure in a week or two. I don't need this vast blowout amount of time, which is I need to wander the world indefinitely to try and find something, and I'm not even sure what that thing is, but I'm just going to go and wander and backpack, and yay, freedom, and don't have to work, and bohemian life and all of that. I did that for many, many years and wasted a lot of time. It's very aimless, a lot of it. But if you know what you're actually looking for at the beginning, you can go straight towards that because you've got an initiatory frame on your travel.
I like that. Yeah.
My answer to Nick is like, yeah, your partner might absolutely understand everything that you need. You might be able to find that sense of completion in your psyche and your soul in much less time than you think. A lot of adventures on the road are actually really, really pointless. There are only a few particularly crucial ones that do 90% of the legwork of actually making the transformation to who you are. There's only a few crucial encounters. Most of them are kind of forgettable side quests.
Maybe Nick needs to make an igloo in his backyard and hide from his wife for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Just deliver the dinner through the little slat at 5 p.m. every day and ring the little bell for me.
Oh, yeah. My goodness.
So my question is, what is the quality? Let's say Nick is a seeker here, which I believe actually with this kind of question.
Sure.
It's not just a bucket list of things you want to do. It's a quality that you want to have and experience and then return with. I feel this in my sinews and in my bones. What is the quality that you want to come home with? What is it really that you're seeking?
And there's a layer of guilt around it because society is saying, grow up, be responsible, And I coach a lot of guys. It's one of the biggest things that they reach out to me in this exact scenario where they have a great wife, for instance, but there's something in them that is burning. And that I just talked to a guy just last week who is in relationship with a great woman. He adores her. He knows that she's the perfect mother for his future children, everything. He's just praised her to me immensely. But there's this other woman that he's seeing when he met her who's living far away. She's more exotic and represents a bit more adventure. And he's like, I haven't got that out of my system. And so he kind of basically made the decision that I'm going to tell my beloved that I've got to go get this out of my system, and I risk losing you, but I'm going to go and capitalize on this. And she cried and was upset and let him go and said, okay, I get it. I honor that. And then he liked her more. He said, this is more the woman I want to be with, because she's so graceful and she's so full of giving and generosity and benevolent. So that he was less interested in this exotic girl across the world, and he wanted to come back to her. But the problem is, if that seed is in there, he can focus and say, okay, I'm going to go back in this direction with this beauty. I'm going to man up. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to give up this exotic beauty over here, and I'm going to go with this incredible woman who understands me so well, and we feel so connected. But it will never go away. That burning, that it'll always be an underpinning thing. I know guys that were seeing a great woman, just like same scenario, and they got her pregnant, and they were going to maybe think about their future, and they got her pregnant, so they married her. And 3, 4, 5 years later, they call me and they have a great wife, they have a great child, they have a great life, everything's going well, but there's something that they just can't put their finger on. Just never that. And if you have this treasure hunting heart, and people say, well, get over it and be responsible, but there's some are born to this type of experience, this way of looking at life, Well, and it's going to come up again in the future with this guy. And I'll tell you the only thing what I told him, I said, the only thing that will change it is if you have sorry, I'm taking over the time here, is if you can make a conscious choice, like, I really want that one there, but I don't want to lose this. This is so incredible. I'm going to calmly go in this direction. The only thing that will seal this into like a solid prospect is if something transformative happens to you. In other words, you have a conversion experience of some kind. You get struck with an illness, something fundamental that changes your whole thing, that makes you really take stock of your life and really, really deep down, instead of just, well, I don't want to lose her, so I'm going to go in this direction. I still remember that. I guess I got to leave that behind. That kind of feeling. It's more of a proactive, conscious choice that something has changed in me. You could go away on a 21-day or 50-day dark forest retreat, and come back with some revelations in your mind that says, you know what? But it has to be a real transformative thing, and not just I guess I'll do it this way. It seems the best path forward. It's got to be something that just hits you like a ton of bricks, and it's falling off your horse on the way to Damascus, being struck by light. Yeah, I get it.
So that makes the tone of my conversation when you said, have you got any travel tips? No, because that's it has to be an incredibly consciously self-designed adventure that's going to scratch a very personal itch. And this is not cookie cutter. So some people might take a motorbike and go somewhere. For some, it might be 50 days in the forest. For another, it's something else. But you just said, everyone around you says, well, you want to grow up and get on with your life. The issue is, growing up actually happens by doing the thing that you're pulled to do.
That's right.
So there's no, if I'm sat around in England I'm dying to go to Cuba and just lose myself to the music there and women or whatever, just like that, the soul of that land speaks to me. I cannot get on with any kind of life in England when my soul is divided because half of it needs to go and have this adventure in the dirt.
You have to explore it. You have to.
Right. So
you're going to be unfair to your wife and child. You're going to be unfair to them because your mind is still looking one eye cocked over in this direction, and you're nodding your head at them. Yeah. But you're still thinking of the sensuality that you're longing for in a place like Brazil or something. Yeah, that exotic beauty. You'd be unfair to them, and that's the thing.
At this point, we could say things. There's initiations that you face in the natural world or against the elements. There's initiations that you face in yourself when it comes to other men, and there's initiations that you have with women, in the land of women, with the feminine principle. But that's also an initiation into your own self.
Right.
Ideally, you want to know that you've got what it takes. So one of the things to look at, and I don't know how this is going to shake out for every man, but I've known some men over a period of years that I've had this conversation with. I've got this perfect woman at home, but I need to go out and do this thing. I need to have a particular experience with a woman. Well, how many is it? How many notches on your bedpost do you need so you can go home and settle? Because the men that go for sheer quantity, that doesn't, I mean, the quantity goes up and up and up and up and up, but the restlessness doesn't get settled.
That's right.
But they could have one night, and I always see Anita Ekberg in the Trevi Fountain, in the Dolce Vita. Marcello's chasing this voluptuous Swedish blonde. He's there in the Trevi Fountain in Rome, and he's almost kissing the divine embodiment, and then morning comes and she disappears from his grasp. There's something about, if you had to distill, let's say you've got a hunger to go to some foreign country and sow your wild oats. Okay, well, you could be forever there sowing those wild oats, but never finding closure. But if you ask yourself, what's the one particular image that I want to be in the midst of, that I want to create for myself, that would be it? What is the woman after which there could be no other woman, because I did the hardest, fastest, most dangerous, soul completing thing with a woman? It's done. What's the image you have to live out? Because it's not, I mean, I'm certain for 99% of the men that I speak to in this, when they talk about going to the exotic country and having the exotic woman, they do not want a relationship with that exotic woman. They want the image of the moment they had the thing,
Right.
the experience of having the thing and coming home. Because as soon as you have the relationship with the exotic woman, you realize, oh my word, she gives me all the same grief and hassle as the one back home. Only it's an exotic form of grief and hassle. I really don't know how to handle this. And now we've got all the things when you get two people from conflicting cultures and I don't know, status and beliefs about what it's going to be much more chaotic. The one you've got at home is a really good bet. So what's the image that you have to live out, after which your whole thing with women is going to feel complete to you? I don't know the answer to that. It's very personal, but these are some of the things that I want men to dive into. What needs to happen that is enough? Apocalypse Now, literally one of my absolute favorite films. What's your Kurtz at the end of the river, the Mekong River or whatever, the end of this tributary in Cambodia? What Kurtz do you need to slay so you can come back down the river on your boat and be like, okay, I saw the darkest thing?
Yeah, wow.
And so that it's done, that the psyche has that completion. There's no Jordan anymore that missed out on women. In a lot of men say things like, I'm pretty good with women, but show me one outside the front of a nightclub fully dressed in leather with a scorpion tattoo on her lower back. I can't speak to her. What's your version of that? You need to hold your own with a girl with a scorpion tattoo on her. So that you can sit in the midst of that energy and hold yourself in the right way. This is the thing I love about Apocalypse Now is he's restless and anxious all the way up. You've been talking about this with the guildsmen and the Amorati, men who have a sense of unrest. The unrest has two different sides to it. So Willard goes up the river with deep unrest. But after he finds Kurtz and has his encounter with Kurtz, when he comes back, he's placid. And you actually see in the last image of Apocalypse Now, you see Willard's face, but reflected in it is the Buddha. He just kind of passes through. You might not think anything of it, but the symbol of the psyche or the mind of the Buddha now is synonymous with his own, and he's found placidity at last. So what's upriver that you need to find so that then you can come home placid and restful?
So your first event in the guild is about the art of initiatory travel. which is
Yeah,
this.
all of this. Yeah, I think we gave it a good going over. I'll try, I'll do my
Okay.
best to really space out a few different ideas that the men there can play around with and ask, how does this relate to me?
Right.
What's my current urge for travel or adventure? What do I need? And underneath the real, because there's the depth psychology here that's asking the question. Underneath your, I fancy going traveling and I want to go here, Eastern Europe. Okay, underneath that, what is your psyche
Right.
actually longing for? What's the completion it wants in Eastern Europe? What is Eastern Europe a symbol for? And what will the people, or what does the nature there give you, that you will have forever if
Right.
you manage to immerse yourself in it fully. This is a real, for me, this is the start of the real conversation about travel, and we'll have an intensive weekend on it. People sharing, this might be new content for some people, it might invite a new spin in the way that you think. We'll go deep into all this over a couple of days, and then we have the whole of the next year, because the men in the guild are going to travel for the rest of the year. How are you traveling now that you have a frame that your travel is for initiation and transformation, versus the frame of, yeah, I think I'll go to Colombia because everyone else is going to Colombia, and I think I'll go and check it out and get on the dating apps and see if anything happens. No, that's not the frame I propose for you. I invite you into a stronger conversation.
Right. And the link for the guild, if somebody's interested, will be in the description, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
Excellent.
our good people of the team, I hope, are going to
Excellent.
put it in the end plate, and we'll have that in the description below. Yeah. I'd love to see some comments. I mean, you can take this video as starter content for that weekend intensive. And
Yeah. Comments.
as an episode of the podcast here, on Spotify, on YouTube, I'd love to hear some of your own takes, wonderings, experiences of this, and how do you see travel? Is it, as for you, a sense of vacation or exodus, getting out of town, being unreachable for a while, or have you actually been seeking this kind of language to interpret your wanderings in a more profound way? That's it.
Okay, good one, Jordan.
That's it for now.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Just curious for you, what are you left with as we
Well, I
bring
like
this
the
to a
subject
close?
too because it's. I mean, I don't do a lot of traveling these days, but I'm not talking about for me, but for my representation of our work to other men. It's a big burden. It's a big question that men have on their hearts.
Yeah.
And so I think it's your weekend intensive about initiatory travel will be extremely valuable and original and unique. I don't think there's anything like it. Maybe there is, but I don't think so. We have a lot of originality here.
Yeah, you spend enough time on the road, you end up with some unique gifts to bring back.
That's right.
That's how I always saw it.
Okay.
All right, catch you in the next episode. Thank you, Zan, and thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Bye, guys.